This is the Certifiable Environmental Professional Podcast, and I'm your host, Sam Hopstone. This is my journey to uncover the untold tales from the resumes of fascinating professionals shaping our planet's future.
Certifiable environmental professional.
And you're listening to Certifiable Environmental Professional Podcast.
So I'm Eva. I am currently a wildlife biologist based in Dublin, California, but I work all throughout the state. So that means both Fresno, but also in the Bay Area where I'm based out of. So there's a couple projects all scattered throughout the Bay. So I work on an assortment of different species. So my specialty is pollinators, mostly native bees. I also do amphibians,
Cool.
So frogs.
Okay.
Reptiles, so snakes.
Garter snake, GGS, or any others?
Yeah, I currently work with San Francisco garter snakes, but when I was in college, I did a research on the predatory effects of giant garter snakes on American bullfrogs in the Sacramento area.
Okay, Sacramento Valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't worked too much since. Right now, because I'm in the Bay, we don't see as much giant garter snakes, and it's mostly San Francisco garters.
Got it.
Nice.
Okay, SF garter snake, is that a sensitive resource, or I don't really know anything about it, to be honest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're another listed species, and I believe they're one of the rarest snakes in California.
Fun!
Yeah, exactly. So it's super cool that I've gotten to handle about, I think, 4 or 5 of them and observe about 12.
Where'd you find them?
I can't disclose it, but somewhere in
Somewhere in San Francisco area.
Somewhere in San Francisco. Exactly,
Nice.
exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's also the same place where I'm getting a whole lot of California red-legged frogs.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there was one time where we found a snake, we grabbed it to relocate, because they were doing construction work, and then I guess they got too nervous because it spit out a red-legged frog.
The snake?
Yeah, the snake. I'm like,
was
whoa, that's so crazy. But, yeah.
Did that count as 2 handles?
You
You grabbed
know,
the
that's
frog?
interesting.
Got him.
Yeah.
That's going in my log.
I didn't consider that, but you know what? That might. I got to go back and add an extra one to my frog.
Do you live in Dublin, East Bay, or are you in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I currently live in Dublin with my boyfriend.
Nice.
And it's funny because, yeah, exactly. It's funny because his heritage is Irish. And when we went back to Ireland last year to see his relatives, they asked where we were from. Like, oh, we're from Dublin, California. And like, no way, that's so crazy. Like, yeah, I got to represent our Irish heritage.
They got like, they have the clovers and stuff. Or not. Have fun with it.
Exactly, yeah. Like their street signs are all clovers next to their street signs, so that's fun.
What are you drinking?
I'm currently drinking iced lemon tea. I'm keeping it in my thermos, but I usually like to throw in like a tea bag in my water just to keep things fun.
Daytime fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
I have like summer vibes. We have a couple mint plants in the back, so we'll start like picking fresh mint, lemon, and just do Arnold Palmer's. And just sipping Arnold Palmer's all day, every day. That's how I keep the paperwork going for 10 hours.
Hey, that's fun. Cool. I also see that you always put up a Spotify playlist whenever you do work. I love that.
Yeah. Spotify Premium. I mean, I'm listening to music, 6 to 8 hours a day. There's always something fresh in there.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah.
How about you? What do you listen to when you're writing up your reports?
I usually turn on some lo-fi music on YouTube Live. Yeah, they have that lo-fi girl.
Study playlist.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like so many varieties of lo-fi now. There's Studio Ghibli lo-fi. There's fantasy lo-fi, Japanese lo-fi. There's all sorts of lo-fi. So I just go through that.
Cycle through an eternity.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. What gets you excited about living in Dublin?
Oh, the food. Oh my God. So about 5 to 10 years ago, they didn't have as much variety, but now there's so many different cuisines. So it ranges from Burmese, Indian, Afghan, Taiwanese, Korean. It's like all sorts of cuisines that you would want. It's popping up there now, and they're still developing. So I'm really excited to see what else they'll build out there.
That sounds amazing. I feel like the only stop I usually made going through Dublin is 99 Ranch. Just grabbing groceries on the way back out to the valley.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been like about, I don't know if it's been 5 years.
Booming.
Yeah. But they've been like also trying to like bring in H Mart. Yeah. So it's like a Korean supermarket. They've been hyping it up for years and it's still like rolling out. Yeah, exactly. But they just added a Costco a couple months ago during Thanksgiving. So that's fun.
Is there a scene like, I can't remember what exit it is, after Doherty, maybe Hacienda, Tasahara, like they built, it's not a separate town, but effectively like that block of, 4-story mixed use. They built like another town right there. And
that's actually where we live.
Yeah, I've watched it go up and I've never been inside it, but I've driven by it 500 times and just in awe. So is there like is there a whole scene in there, restaurants and shops and good times? Or is it like strictly housing?
It's mostly housing right now, but I think either this year or next year they're adding in a school.
Cool.
Right in the middle of all that residential area.
Nice.
No restaurants yet in there, but exactly.
That's good.
Yeah. And then across the street we have a Host Food and a couple other restaurants, so I think we're fine with it just being like a couple blocks away.
Have you ever like walked to the BART station and taken BART into the city and like gone car free?
Yeah.
You pulled it off?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the dream, baby.
Oh yeah, it's only 10-15 minutes away. Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly. So it's super convenient.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are there any like local wildlife jaunts like in the Mount Diablo foothills around there? I used to be into, my wife used to get into like rock hounding or group hikes, stuff like that. Do they have like a wildlife society scene there? You guys do anything in Mount Diablo?
So there are a couple hiking spots. I actually haven't hiked as much since I started being a wildlife biologist. Now that
You get your steps in you.
Yeah, that's true. Now that my weekdays are all in the field, on my weekends, I pretty much just staying at home playing video games.
Good job.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not into the hiking scene as much, but I know there's some good hiking spots out there. There's Pleasanton Ridge, which I think it's either owned by CDFW or like East Bay Parks, but it's a nice hiking spot.
Never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
East Bay Regional Parks District is like, just big ups to EPRPD. Yeah, really cool. A lot of gems in East Bay. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, right now it's Moose Tracks. So that's vanilla.
Is that a Ben and Jerry's flavor?
No, I think it's
like a universal.
It's, I guess, a universal thing, but I haven't heard of it until recently. So it's just vanilla ice cream, chocolate fudge, and then peanut butter cups.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple.
Yeah. I love peanut butter and I love chocolate. So when I heard of it, I was like, okay, I have to try this. So that's my current favorite. But I also switch through ice cream flavors a lot. There's just so many flavors out there. Yeah.
We've got a local shop in Fresno called Ampersand, and it's just like a new flavor every time you show. It's just like the craft brewery scene, like I'm just drinking a different beer. Every single time I buy beer, I'm just gonna buy a different one. You know what I mean? For the rest of my life. Same thing with the ice cream scene, man. It's diversifying.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Cool.
Exactly.
Those tracks. Respectable. Okay. Let's go back in time to the beginning of your environmental interest. I'm going to switch up these question orders a little bit. How did you know and when did you know that you wanted to get into, environmental work and even wildlife specifically?
Mm-hmm. So I knew since I was young that I really liked the outdoors. I didn't know if that was something that could be a job until I think around high school. One of my seniors, when I was a freshman, mentioned that she was going to major in environmental science. And I was like, yeah,
that exists.
That was the first time I've heard of this major. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do because that sounds like that's going to be what gets me into field work. So since then, I was like, okay, now I always knew I wanted to do environmental work, and now I have a pathway or some sort of path to get into that field.
Did you collect worms or bugs or rocks or any scientific gathering operations going on in elementary school?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. When I'm at the beach, sometimes I like to collect cool rocks. But oh, you know what's crazy? So, in elementary school, when we were in the 5th grades, our teacher had us do a Native American project. And I was like, oh, we took everything so seriously in my house. And when we heard of that, we were like, oh, okay, let's go into the beach, grab us some sticks, grab some rocks, and start tying them together and bring that to our class. So I brought like this giant, like, homemade axe and a mini one, and then everyone else brought in, like, I guess cardboard versions. Like, oh, was that what we were supposed to do? So yeah, we really get involved with nature in our family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like the outdoors. You were exposed to environmental science that pathway, just like those words, environmental science, which I don't know if it was called that 20 years ago. So I had a similar kind of light go off in high school. It's like, environmental something, but when it clicks and there's like a program, that's cool. Awesome. Were you involved at all in high school in like any clubs or extracurriculars that got your foot in or kind of, how do you say that, helped you develop the vocabulary and start to learn even what to look up? This is like, for me, it was like early in the days of Googling. This is before you can tell a 5-year-old, like, just Google whatever or ask a chatbot to like tell you all about it. So sorry, back to you.
Yeah.
Was there anything in high school that pointed you there?
Yeah. So our high school had an earth club.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we did some. Yes, yeah, we did some coastal cleanups, some cleanups around our schools, recycling, and we also do camping trips every year.
Nice.
With the monies we raised from recycling all the bottles and cans from our school and bringing it into like the recycling center, and that's where we get our funds for the camping trip.
CRV.
Yeah.
Huge passion line.
Oh wait, that's awesome! I didn't notice that.
That's outside the camera view.
Yeah.
Nice and clean here in our little studio.
Exactly. Yeah. So I really enjoyed our Earth Club and the community we had there. But that's also where I met that senior who introduced me to environmental sciences.
Buddy.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so high school, Earth Club, already going on outings, already learning about the field, and you had a mentor and you like developed a track for undergrad. Let's move it into, sorry, was there a gap year or did you go after high school straight into undergrad?
Yeah, I went straight into undergrad. I wish there was more, it was more normalized for me to take gap years because I did have some friends and classmates who I think would have benefited having that extra year to think things over. But I guess it's not as common here in America to take gap years.
And I'm not sure, I don't have I'm kind of like California centric for a lot of my life, so I don't know. I get exposed to people from all over the country that come to California and I ask them all about it, but I haven't gotten around and chatted with college students much.
Mm-hmm.
How about Taiwan? Is there like a gap year? Do they have a draft, like, compulsory military service, or is it just do whatever you want to do, or how does it usually go down over there?
So I do think there is a draft for the males, but I did come over from Taiwan when I was 6, so I'm not as familiar with what the academic, school, work-life balance is like over there.
Got it.
I'm a lot more integrated into the American system, but I do go back and visit my family every other year or so when I was younger, and then now since COVID, it's been more every 5 years just to visit my aunts, my grandparents.
Yeah.
The usual.
Got it. Okay, straight to undergrad. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Davis. Yeah.
Nice.
I saw that they had a really good ag program and they're really good with environmental science. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty good school. It's a couple hours away from home, but I can still drive back on holidays.
Honestly, it's weekendable, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Dublin?
No. So I grew up in the Daly City, South San Francisco area, so on the peninsula. Yeah, so I'm used to the fog and I love the cold. And Dublin is such a switch. Same with Davis, and like here in Fresno, yeah, it's an adjustment.
Yeah, you
But
missed the fog, but you got all the wildflowers. That's something.
that's true. That's true. There are a lot more floral species out here.
UC Davis on the engineering side too, like their civil program. It's like civil. Well, at least 10 years ago, it was civil / environmental. So it's like environmental.
Ooh,
Cool.
that's so cool.
It's like a little buzzword for greenies like me. So I got excited about Davis. I mean, I just thought it was cool.
Huh.
Okay, undergrad, UC Davis. Did you do wildlife biology or is it like environmental science, earth science? What was the program?
I was an environmental science and management major.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize Davis had a wildlife fishery conservation biology major until a couple years later on in my college.
Yeah, junior
career.
year, you're like perusing the
Yeah.
catalog, like son of a.
Exactly. I know, like that's what I
was
wanted.
the
I didn't know
one.
that was an option, but I was like, it's close enough.
Yeah, you made it.
Yeah. Eventually, I got here as a wildlife biologist, so it worked out.
Did you do? Was it a BS or was it BA like management?
Yeah, it was a BS.
Got it.
And then I just also minored in psychology and communication because I really love watching human behaviors and like seeing how people communicate. Yeah, exactly. Well,
Still like a hobby, just reading about brains and people and studies and stuff.
yes, exactly.
We'll do that every week. That's good work.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Were you involved in any societies, extracurricular programs? Did they have like a wildlife society, student chapter at Davis? Would you remember?
I'm not too sure. I know they had an entomology club.
What is that?
So that's for insects.
Okay.
There's an insects club in Davis that I was a part of occasionally. But then I think COVID hit at some point during my sophomore or junior year, and then everything just shut off. So that was a really interesting switch to have during college. So everything became virtual. So even our labs and like field work, field component of our classes was more just going to your backyard and like looking for plants or exactly, your flowers. So it was an interesting adjustment to have in my college experience.
And you made it through.
Yeah.
You like, powered through and survived and passed and did it. Entomology.
Entomology.
Entomology. Got it.
Yeah.
Bee bio.
Exactly. Yeah, bee bio.
Fantastic. Were there in some like sectors of society, COVID caused like an explosion of outdoors outings. So like, did you see that at all? Or was it like shut down, or were there any activities that pushed to the outdoors, like not camping trips, but I'm just thinking of like scientific expeditions and entomology jaunts.
Yeah. So what was funny is that I had been accepted to 2 different field internships for frogs and toads right before COVID hit. And surprisingly, when COVID hit, they had to like limit which makes sense. They had to limit the amount of people that they could have on each project.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually cut down the amount of field work we were allowed to do. So I think that was just something that we were seeing across all fields. So it was more prevalent in indoor careers, but I guess it was also impacting outdoor careers. Because when we were doing our pit taggings, for doing capture mark recaptures for the bullfrogs, when we were seeing the behaviors for giant garter snakes and bullfrogs, we had to do them outdoors. So instead of going into a shed to do our pit tagging, we have to sit out in the cold at like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 p.m. a.m.
Them on their plane.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like in the cold, we're all like trying to do our little slicing pit tagging. It's like, oh god, it's so cold. Like, okay, we're ready to go to the next one. Yeah, so it was a fun experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it wasn't just solo labs. You got a little outdoors extracurricular times.
Yeah.
Was that Fish and Wildlife Service, CDFW, or like a local nonprofit?
That was those both of the research I did at Davis, that summer research positions were all for some other graduate students.
Okay, yeah, university based.
Yeah, university based
Cool.
research. Yeah.
That's the when you send the email, they're like, yeah, you can come along.
Exactly. Like yay.
Let's go.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. You got through college. You made it. Bachelor's of Science. Can you speak to the window from graduation day to the present? If you like your course through either chasing or obtaining professional certifications, also involvement in professional societies, and how those have interplayed with each other. If you've done any of it, or if it's just just straight project work and project specific certs. That was like 5 questions in one, but it's hard to extract one question. But yeah, just take us from college to present and like professional advancement. Not necessarily in title, because titles, can't think of a good word to use for it, but just focusing on certifications and like getting handles and getting tags for your resume for the agencies.
Yeah. So right after college, I was looking for jobs, and then I found out about a research position up in Reno for the University of Nevada, Reno, during that works on native bees and wildflower pollen. That was actually when I switched from frogs and snakes into bees. So while I was out there, we were doing a lot of, we were catching all sort of native bees that you could have never imagined existed. Because the guy I was working under, he had experience in Africa and some other countries, collecting different types of pollinators. And then when he came up to Reno, he had his own personal collection, but the collection he showed me were all the bees he collected in Reno within a couple hours from where we were. And I was seeing purple bees, green bees, blue bees, like all sorts of bees, from like super tiny bees to the size of fruit flies to like the huge carpenter bees. And I was like, whoa, these are all bees? And I was like, oh, maybe these are the ones you collected from Africa. It was like, no, these are all the ones that are like
from campus.
Yeah, right?
Did he have like a greenhouse? Did he have a glass room, like a insect zone?
So instead of a glass room, we had this extra soundproof room, which was already going overboard because it was like tightly sealed in the dark, airtight, like dark room. So he knew it was extra, but we just had that extra light.
Fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but after I realized like that was the population of like bees near us, I was like, oh, well maybe I'm just not. Maybe they're not as common. It's like no, they're really common. It's just sometimes we don't notice that they're bees and we mistake them for other insects. Like, oh, okay, I must have been doing that. It's like, yeah. So next time we go out, I'll like point them out to you. Like, okay. So he got me super interested in bees. Yeah.
I feel like that's such a, what do you call that? It's like one of the big benchmarks of just my human experience is like just that realization, just learning how much of the biomass of the earth is like just insects.
Yeah.
Like we're like bumbling along 5 feet above the ground. Like I don't see 99% of it. A couple of mosquitoes, but unless you're looking, like we just don't see it. But like it's just
they're just too
crazy. Small
for us, like huge.
It's off our radar.
Like, yeah,
but it's just wild.
Exactly.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah, there definitely is. So then after, while I was working on that research project with him, I also attended an Entomological Society of America conference.
Yes.
Yeah.
ETA.
Yeah. Oh, ESA.
ETSA. What is it?
ESA.
ESA.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was like a temporary member. Yeah, exactly. So I was like a 1-year member for that organization. And then when I finished that research position, I switched out of research and into consulting. So that's where I am now. And since then, I've attended their Wildlife Society Western Section Conference. I think almost.
Did you go to that show in Visalia?
Yes.
Was there any entomology? I don't remember.
Yeah, they had an invertebrate section, so it covered flies, bees, scorpions. Yeah. Berry shrimps also, but they were covering all sorts of inverts.
Nice.
So that was a cool experience.
Sorry, backtracking a little bit. Did your professor introduce you to the society, or was there any like connect there? Do you guys keep in touch?
Um,
So he just doing his own thing in the basement, got a soundproof room, you know.
yeah.
You were just working with the bees for a while.
Yeah. So he was the one who introduced me to that Entomological Society of America organization.
Yeah.
We haven't kept in touch as much since, but he did reach out again when he was like ready to publish our findings about a couple months ago.
Yes.
And I was like, oh yes, we're
Cool.
finally there. So yeah, it was cool seeing catching up with him for that one point. Same with our other lab mates. That was back in August of last year, but it was fun.
Fantastic. Were you working for UNR? Were you just volunteering for fun? Like, what was that? What was that about?
So,
Were you doing grad school? Do you have a master's and you're like just, you know, letting it slip through, or what?
so I actually don't have a master. I have when I was up in Reno, I was doing something that was called a bachelorette program. So it was a 1-year program that was sponsored by NSF. I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. They offer grants for a lot of undergraduate students to be able to do research. So that was a full-time paid position for 1 year where I was just learning as much as I can about native bees and pollens. So that I don't have a master's, but sometimes I do get, I do have people assuming that I do. I'm like, oh, sure, if you want to do, but no, I don't.
You got a post-bac fellowship.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Never heard of that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that until I applied. I was like, oh, okay.
This is the coolest thing I never heard of. I'm going for it.
Exactly.
You got it.
Exactly.
That's wild. And it's like 2 hours from Davis, or I guess 3 Reno.
Yeah.
That is just wild. What a gem. Okay. Wildlife Society, Entomological Society of America,
Yes.
ESA.
Yeah, ESA.
And are there any insects that have that are federally listed? Like, is there scorpion? You know, they have scorpion scientific collector permits, or do you have any fish and wildlife? Any interactions with that agency in the insect realm?
So there are 4 candidately listed bumblebees: Crachii, Cyclii, Frankii. I think Western is the last one.
I've heard of one of those. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So those are listed, but there are also a bunch more of other pollinators that are under they're on the watch list, sort of. I don't remember what it's technically called, but they aren't as endangered as the other 4 bumblebees I've listed, but they are still on the decline.
Yeah, like on the federal, I can't remember what the levels are, but not candidate, but there's they're on the radar.
Yeah.
In decline. Got it. Cool.
I'm not too sure about the under inverts that are listed. I know fairy shrimps.
Right.
Yeah, there's a couple of fairy shrimps and brachiopods that are listed. I'm not sure. I think there might be some flies that are listed, but don't quote me.
I know. Yeah, I gotta go Google all this and put it in the show notes. Can I grill you on your certs, or do you have any species specific? Is there a crotch bumblebee designated biologist for different for different permits, or what's that arena look like?
So since bumblebees weren't really on the radar until I think August 2022, there isn't currently a 10A1A permit for the bumblebees. The closest you can do to get some sort of permit is a scientific collecting permit.
Cool.
Or a MOU, memorandum of understanding, just to cover general species that you might be interacting with that are listed, but they're more general. But I am currently on a pending status for a 10A1A for California red-legged frogs. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's been an year of being on the pending status, but you know how that goes.
You've been in the game long enough to know it's like 1 year or 5 years. It's just luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Have you had any interactions with Fish and Wildlife or CDFW, like individuals in person? Have you ever gotten involved in any project work or just like had FaceTime with agency people? I have no direct, like I've worked with water board, people from the State Water Resources Board on the water jobs. Have that comfort, you know what I mean? That exposure, that experience with the water guys. But CDFW, like I don't get any FaceTime, so I love to ask bios. What's your experience with them?
So I was helping out, assisting with a volunteer effort, with a CDFW team on salt marsh harvest mouse trappings.
Awesome.
So I was doing a little bit of that in the Bay Area.
East Bay?
Yeah,
San
exactly.
Jose or
Around the Grizzly Island wildlife area. Yeah,
good times.
that was fun. But they do have to wake up super early. So
yeah, they're not 8 to 5ers.
Yeah, they're not, because we have to be out there by 5, so that means I have to wake up at 3:30, and I'm like, oh god, okay, I'll help out sometimes, but that's about the limit of what I can do.
Yeah, man, there's no BART train, there's no 3 o'clock train either.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just driving, running on caffeine for the first few hours, and then you got to drive back and go back to your normal 9 to 5 job. Yeah.
Yeah, you get home 7:45, just in time to clock in.
Yeah, exactly. I've also worked with a group from East Bay Parks to try and get, when I was trying to get my California red-legged frog permit, one of the requirements was that I had to have observed the species at least 2 different geographic locations. So most of my sightings was at one particular project, and I just needed another sighting at a different location.
How far do they give? How does that work? Mileage, or is it like totally subjective?
It's just a general, just like a different project, basically. They didn't want too many observations at one site, and then
It could be like 2 hillsides over, or like if you had a handle on the, on the East Bay, you can get a handle on the peninsula, and that's far enough.
Exactly. Yeah. So for that second geographic location, I was just working with East Bay Parks to try and find my second. Yeah, exactly. My second individual at a different location. And I was able to find it while I was out there. I was like, okay, now I can submit my application.
Yeah, I feel like Dublin, Altamont, Foothills around there, San Jose, Mount Hamilton. It's got to be something. They got to be around.
Exactly.
Some of those drainages.
Mm-hmm.
Gems. Awesome. Okay, we've charted your course, K-12 all the way through the present, certifications, society memberships. Are you currently active in any societies? Are you like volunteering at all, or you're just grinding?
I'm not currently a member at any of the organizations. But I do think they are helpful for folks who are starting out, just to get their foot in the door. Because you do meet a lot of awesome people at the Wildlife Society group. So yeah, I definitely would recommend it. I'm just currently trying to save up on my money, but they are a good group to hang out with.
I'm trying to figure out how to get back into that student rate, like maybe I should go to city college or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any advice, or I guess just general advice is join the society, but any like specific lessons learned or like questions to ask, or what to pursue? Sometimes looking, or even at the conference, looking at the catalog or going on the website for the Wildlife Society is like, this is just a lot. There's hundreds of species. Even just picking one category is hard. There's so many, it's like avian, entomology, mammal, like there's just a lot to absorb. So yeah, any like individual lessons learned or advice on that, like how to approach the society?
Yeah. So there are definitely courses and workshops for a bunch of different species or animal groups out there. Some of them are free, some of them are you have to pay for, but it's definitely a good start to just try out all these different workshops, see what you prefer, what animal groups you like, what you're interested in, and then you can go from there. So what I have learned is that I really enjoy working with really small creatures, so like inverts. So that was something I only found out because I had to work with like all of these animal groups, and then I was like, okay, I just really like looking at things under the microscope, I guess.
Have you ever dabbled with avian or done any like small mammal, getting out into the desert in the middle of the night, doing any traps?
Ooh, I haven't gone out to the desert yet. I've helped with some nesting bird surveys,
Cool.
but I realized I'm not a
Oh,
great birder. My hearing is like not that great. So whenever
It's a big part of it.
yeah, it's a big part because I have met some bios who are so good at IDing birds by their bird calls. Like when I help assist them, they'll be like, "Oh, I'll just tell you exactly what the species is while I'm hearing them, and you can help me jot down the notes." I'm like, "Yeah, of course." They're listing all of these species. I'm like, "Oh, okay, hurry up! I got it." I'm like, "Well, I don't think that is an animal group I think I'll be as much of an expert in." But it was fun to like see the experts in that field.
Yeah, it's like a nice experience. Camping with avian bios too. They're just like boom, 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 boom. Well, it might be similar with entomologists, but just like, just be like you're sitting around what do you call that? There's no fire, but sitting around the empty fire pit, before dinner, and they're just like pew 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 pew, pointing them all out.
Exactly.
A lot of jumps. Okay. Almost ready to wrap it up. Next question. What's the craziest day of fieldwork we can remember? Can be fun, crazy, scary, crazy, happy, sad, whatever you're comfortable. And just remember we're keeping things anonymous, so like no names and dates, but you can still share some fun.
Yeah. So the craziest story that has happened to me related to wildlife happened 2 years ago. So I was out on a project. We were at an airport, and they have a big problem with Canadian goose wanting to like build their nest near the airport field, and that's a problem because they're
Birds.
yeah, you don't want birds
Planes.
flying near the propeller, the engines, the planes. Like that's just a cause for a call for help, a call for concern. So we were out there just trying to reduce the population for Canadian goose by sort of making their eggs a bit more, preventing their eggs from hatching, essentially. I won't get into too much details because it might be too gross.
I'm fascinated,
Yeah.
but let's stop rolling the camera and I'll ask my 500 questions.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So while we were out there, usually the mother geese aren't really sure what we're up to, so they just kind of leave us alone. But we had one mother geese that caught on at some point because the next time we returned to the field, they were kind of being aggressive. So when I'm out there, I'm there with one other bio.
Brass knuckles, they're trying to start something.
Yeah, exactly. See, I should brought you out there.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Yeah. But I was out there with another junior bio, and then we came across this mother geese. I was like looking a bit suspicious. She was like kind of squatting, like, oh no, she seems like she might be upset at what's happening. I was like, okay, well maybe we're fine. We took one step, the bird flew out of its nest, made a 180-degree turn, and just started diving right at me. And I was like, oh shoot, because I'm holding 2 buckets of supplies. I'm like, oh god, I was just frozen in fear. Luckily, my other junior bio was there.
Did he have the, what do you call that? The notepad, the defensive notepad?
Bio. No, she thought of something better. So then there was like a giant 6-foot stick that was on the ground. She grabbed it up. Mind you, we're 2 short Asian girls in their 20s. She grabbed a stick that was bigger than her and started swinging it at the geese. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Defensive perimeter.
Exactly. Defensive perimeter. So she kind of protected me, and then the geese flew away. I'm like, oh, thank God you're here. Because I was just frozen. I was like, okay, we can go back, just checking on the nest and seeing how things are going. Yeah. That was the craziest story.
Doesn't count as an altercation, right? There was no no contact.
No contact.
Whew. I've read about I can't remember where, probably in the depths of Reddit, but like falconers operating in and around smaller airfields. Have you like encountered any of that in your arena? Like using falcons to help clear specifically, in non-native invasive alien species? Is
Yeah,
that like a thing out in the real world? I've read it on the internet.
it is. I have a fun story also related to like that same
I think any
airport.
Falcon story can be bio or non-bio adjacent. Falcons are just cool.
Yeah, so right outside of this airport, there's a ton of crows that like to hang out around there, and then during the sunset, they start flying out, stretching their wings, and coming back to their nest. And then they used to fly really close to the building where people would board planes. So one time, one of them like got into the building, and they were kind of stuck there flying around trying to find the exit. The door was too small; they couldn't find it, so they called a falconer to have a falcon come in and try to chase
Extract the resource.
yeah, exactly. Chase the crow out. The crow did not understand what it was trying to do. It didn't get the message. So it just kind of stayed there. The falcon couldn't really do anything, and the crow just kind of survived off of pizza, fast food that was in the airport for a while, and then yeah, and just made it its home. Like, okay, well, eventually gotta go. So yeah, they have to shoot it down and drag out the carcass.
Not a happy ending, but still pretty exciting climax.
Yeah.
Falcons. So sick.
Exactly.
Let's go. Last question. Any elevator advice for budding environmental professionals? So that's like, students, college students, could even be, you and I have both met folks, mid or late career that you can just pivot with or without a bio background and get into that field. So first question is, advice for those folks. And to add a layer onto that, if you could speak to just being a person of color, a woman of color, and your experience getting into the field, and if you have any advice or if you've seen any change even in the period of your career, that's of note.
Yeah. So my advice to anyone who's thinking of switching into the field, it's never too late to try something new. So I definitely would support it. And for anyone who's starting out, to try as many variety, as many fields, in the environmental aspects, if that's your interest, just to test your grounds and see what you're interested in. Because like we talked about earlier, there's so many different species, so many different animal groups. So just try a little bit of everything. And as a woman, in BIPOC in the environmental field, it's interesting. So I have heard from other older women in the wildlife biology field that it has made a switch. So in the past, it was a more white and male dominated atmosphere, but since then it's definitely switched to be more female dominated or more female oriented, which is something that I was really lucky to have gone into. I was very lucky to have gone into this field when that switch has happened already.
Good decade.
Exactly. It
Nice.
was a great decade for me. So it's definitely something that I would advocate women to give a try for, if they're interested in biology, if they're interested in wildlife, to just give wildlife biology a try. Yeah. We, as a BIPOC member, there are some of the things we have to be aware of. So in the consulting field, a lot of times you are working with a variety of people, and there are some who might not appreciate your presence. So we do have to be a bit more cognizant and aware of that racist environment, and just be a bit more, just understand that if you ever feel uncomfortable in certain situation, and it's okay to just leave. You do not need to be in an environment that you don't feel comfortable in. So if you're working on a project and you don't feel safe, it's totally fine to just exit that space.
Is that in biology specifically, or I feel like any job, we're at a point in society where, like, you can just call people out on their what's the word, inappropriate behaviors, call them out and just exit the situation, and it's like, that's okay.
Yeah. Definitely call them out if you feel safe to do so. I also understand.
You don't have to call people
exactly.
out, but I just mean, like, if you're being treated poorly, like, you can just walk away.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like totally fine. Most situations, you can just go.
Yeah, yeah, and we're very lucky to have a lot of supportive males in our atmosphere also
Awesome.
that would step in and like help confront the situation to keep things a bit more comfortable and a bit more safer for our female BIPOC. So I appreciate all of these awesome males in our atmosphere.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
I feel like from my end, I got comfortable 10 years ago working in construction and spending my time in the trailer, and yeah, very not wholesome environment. So I'm still trying to like reprogram myself for the politically correct office environment.
Really?
um, but um, but the one thing that hasn't changed is yeah, you can always just walk away. Nobody's stuck in any adversarial situations. Nice,
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, exactly.
I was trying to remember. There was another bit. Oh yeah, I wanted to add. I feel like you had advice to try as many new things in your early career as possible. I feel like that's also good general life advice for the rest of your life to just always try anything new as much as possible. If if you're try to expose yourself to new situations and new thought provoking topics. That's something that I talked about with Jermaine. It's like after you after you extricate yourself from living with your parents or just that your um childhood home and that like cultural context, and just try to knock down mental barriers as quickly as possible, as thoroughly as possible, and that can be like a lifelong thing, just always trying new stuff.
Yeah, definitely agree.
There's got to be a better way to say that in less than 3 sentences. Something I'm working on for the podcast.
Nice. No, I love that. That's an awesome take. Well, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
There we go. Yeah, what's up, Hazy?
I don't have I don't have one of those.
These are pretty powerful, so they can pick up your voice even from over there. It'll hear you in the recording. Should I stop the recording and then we can show you? We could demonstrate.
No.
Okay. Just brush it on your dress, hon.
I don't want.
So there's training.
I
Yeah, free plus offline. OBS Studio. I used that. I remember 5 years ago. But yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. I don't see the video. Daddy.
Okay. But you see the lines? They go up because we're talking.
Oh.
Oh, I'm gonna get into it too.
My hands on back.
Hey, you're the co-host, Hayes. Okay, there's another bit. I feel like. So let's start at the top. Yeah, name, current occupation, and location.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go get it.
Get your what? Okay.
That's the yellow one.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine.
I do.
Hazy.
Okay. I'm going to put it on my copies.
Okay.
Here.